Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another video blog here on Fearless Games. How's it going, everybody? Apologize for not having a video up last week when it was supposed to. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling well, and if I had tried to do one, I would just be coughing every 2 seconds, so I decided to take a break. But as promised, here is a video up on this Tuesday instead, which is about the new Aeldari preview that we had gotten about a week and a half ago, where GW was doing the preview, and they mentioned the new codexes that are coming out at the beginning of the year, which is Astra Militarum and the Eldar, or Aeldari, depending on how old you are and not how old you are, but how long you've been playing the game. And I'm going to be focusing on the Aeldari piece of this video, because you can tell by the packaging over here-ish that Eldar are my jam. They're my largest army. They were my first army. They're the one army where whenever I have to do any downsizing are safe from being put up for sale, because I just can't get rid of them. They are just too awesome and too cool for me to just get rid of them. So when they decided to do this preview, I was really excited because of all the new stuff Eldar are getting. And so let us jump right into this. For, as we all knew beforehand, we got Fuegan, the Phoenix Lord of the Fire Dragons. He's getting a brand new model. One thing I like about it is there's really no changes. And to be honest, the Eldar models don't need to be changed. They're great the way they are. They just needed to move to plastic, because one of the problems, especially with the Phoenix Lords, were they were really crammed in, so they looked really fat and wide and super bulky, and the only one that really worked for that kind of style, in my opinion, was Magenra, the Dark Reaper's Exarch. The rest of them I felt needed to be more lanky and athletic looking, and because their bodies are so close together and their weaponry and all that kind of like merged into one, they always look like these big giant like bulbous rocks. And with this new model, he just looks fantastic. You really get the idea that this is an elven creature that can dodge bullets practically, and just the way he looks with the lance, just how ridiculously large it is just really cool. I love the new stylized axe that he has. And again, they didn't really play too much with him. They kind of molded his helmet so it looked a little less ridiculous, because he did have a huge helmet before. Granted, all of them had really huge heads, except for one of them, in my opinion. Only one really did have a ridiculously large head. And these were also second edition models, and they suffered from that 2D look. They were always flat because of the way they had to make the posing, so they didn't look three-dimensional, and this one does. And of course, since we got the new Phoenix Lord of the Fire Dragons, we got plastic fire dragons. And once again, models look amazing because they're now brought into that new age three-dimensional look. The old models had some definition, they looked really good, but the problem again was when they're holding their weaponry, they kind of were merged with their bodies, like they were just like coming out of their chest, which I guess you could say kind of works because Wraithbone grows everything. But now with these new models, you have a space between their gun and their chest, making them look more three-dimensional and more alive. And again, they capture that elven look really well, and they don't look that much different. You can put them next to the old fire dragons, and I feel like you wouldn't notice a major difference. Actually, when I saw the picture, I was like, oh, those are just the fire. Like, I thought it was the current models, until I noticed one had the Aeldari head, which maybe when the new codex comes out, I'll do a primer on that whole thing. because that is a really cool concept that they introduced, and it's one way to kind of give us more more in the kits, whereas most Eldar kits don't have a lot of upgrades like Space Marines and everyone else. So it was a really nice, cool add-on feature. We see that the Exarch has gotten 3 weapon options this time around. He can have the Fire Pike, he can have the Dragon's Breath, or he can have an axe and pistol. And not only that, the Fire Dragons now are getting a Flamer option. This is huge because they didn't really have like a giant horde killing unit. You know, the Dire Avengers could do it very well, but they didn't have like a flamery like unit to help deal with horde armies. The Fire Dragons were always built on taking out tanks, but now they have a second role. You give them all flamers when you know you're going up against like a lot of horde dudes and you need that flaming wall of death because you know there's just not going to be a lot of tanks for them to bust. So they now are a little bit more versatile, which I am very excited about. It's going to give more opportunities just to make them all look different rather than just the standard painting them different colors. And of course, we see with Fuegan, and I think the Exarch gets it too, is a back banner. Oh, I love back banners. They're stupid and nonsensical, but I just think they are cool looking, and it's a sci-fi ridiculous universe, and I want more ridiculous looking things on my models. I just think it looks amazing. Moving on from that, we got new Swooping Hawks, and these are the ones I'm really happy about. For the longest time, Eldar models had this problem with contact points. They're either these really tiny pegs or these really shallow holes, and all their armor weapons always fall off. My Fire Dragons, the Exarch's Fire Pike, always fell off. The Swooping Hawks, their wings, no matter what I did, their wings would always pop off. But now that they're in plastic, that shouldn't be a problem anymore. At least it better not be, because that's been one thing I've been hoping for this whole time, is plastic Swooping Hawks so I don't have to deal with the stupid wings anymore. And again, they didn't change much about these. They just changed up their posings. They gave them that 3-dimensional look because their guns aren't like molded onto their chests anymore. And they're on tactical rocks or tactical wraithbone bits because a lot of, Eldar structures are made out of wraithbone and all that. But again, they look so dynamic and so swift. I feel like these dudes can fly like birds. They just look phenomenal. And again, they have 3 weapon options for their Exarch, which is the pistol and the power weapon, which is a nice classic one for them. Actually, all of his ones are old upgrades, really. He's got the regular the Hawk Talon. He's also got the Sun Rifle, which is great. One of the cool things that happened in like 4th, 5th edition was Eldar had the Eldar had like these really cool different weapons they could introduce that had really cool concepts, but they were never given model representation. And then when GW started doing the whole no model, no rules, no model, or no model, no rules policy because of the legal things that happened later on, it was a shame to see them all go away, because some of them were really unique and could help make them a little more adaptable. But in the current state that they're in, there really isn't that much change you could do to them, so they were all basically, when you saw them on the field, you knew exactly what they would do. Their Phoenix Lord also got a upgrade. Baharath, he looks awesome. Out of all of the old models, he was the one that I think could stand the test of time the longest, just by the way he was posed, the way he was designed. His helmet wasn't really overly ridiculous. He just had that really big feather. His wings looked glorious. He just had the right kind of design where even in that 2-dimensional model pose, it worked. So it wasn't that terrible of a model design, but to see him now in plastic is great. He looks so agile. He looks like he was born with wings and that he belongs in the sky. And he's also got that cool banner going off his gun. I'm sorry, but these models just look phenomenal in all way, shape, and form. And Azerman also has a new model, and one person described it, which I think is the perfect way to describe it, is he looks like a Space Marine captain. And he kinda is. He's like the first Space Marine captain. He's a tactical genius. He was the teacher of all the Phoenix Lords, and again, he had probably one of the most standouting appearances out of all of them, with the two guns on his wrists, the sword, the crazy plumed helmet, the banners, the whole kit and caboodle, the sword. He just looked really, really good. I'm not a big fan of the change with his mouth. He kind of got this line. It almost looked like to me like they got rid of his mouth on his faceplate, and I think that might have looked better if they did that and gave him like a more Guardian look. You know, I don't know, just I feel like that one slit looks too Necron-y, in my opinion. I miss the classic looking grill, and I have seen someone who photoshopped his old face into the helmet, and it just looks so good. I wish that they'd went that way. But, you know, what are we gonna do? It still looks like a great model. I love the posing of him too, though standing between two tactical rocks I think is a little much. I think it would have looked cooler if he was like on a single slab, kind of like in the old 2nd edition Kodaks. Give him like a, you know, Pride rock look where he's just standing there and holding out instead of kind of keeping him between two pieces of debris. I thought that was a little much. I did notice that they didn't upgrade the Dire Avengers, but to be honest, they were already in plastic, so they could stand a little bit longer without a new model kit. They may just be a little shorter. To be honest, I haven't built any of the new Aspect Warriors, so I'm not sure how they stand up next to them. But that'll be an interesting thing to look at. Maybe I'll do a video later when I finally get some of the newer Aspect Warriors built to compare the two to see if they really should be upgraded by now. And that's it. All of the Phoenix Lords that needed new models have gotten upgraded, and all of them are now in full-on plastic. Okay. Not all of them. Seems like our poor buddy Kahandris of the Striking Scorpions was left out in the cold. And some of you may be also pointing out Aureliath is also not there, but I'll get to Aureliath and the Shadow Specters in a little bit. Word is that when they were doing these projects, they forgot Kahandris was not made in plastic. And I can kind of see where they're coming from with that. When Jane Czar was introduced in Blood of the Phoenix, it was Jane Czar and the Howling Banshees. So when the Striking Scorpions were introduced, I thought they were going to just throw him in as well. But it looks like they didn't want to do a 40K release with the Kill Team release, I guess not to distract from it. So they just did the Striking Scorpions. And more than likely, when they greenlit the rest of the project, oh, I haven't forgotten, when the Dark Reapers were introduced, Magan Ra was also thrown in, but he was a 40K release as well. So I feel like when they got into it, the execs were like, well, the Striking Scorpions are plastic, so obviously we already did Kahandris, and they kind of forgot that he still is in metal. It's sad. He's the only model now that is in plastic, that's in metal and still running a 2nd edition miniature. So hopefully later on down the line they will throw him out there in something. I think the major problem just was they have this kind of like setup now where they do things in special events, and the event they had the Striking Scorpions for, there was no purpose of a Phoenix Lord being there, and they just bad decision making on model release. But hopefully later on in the future we'll get a release with Kahandris, which is where the Forge World Aspect Warriors can come into play here. when GW started doing the Purge, we noticed that the Shadow Specters and Aureliath were gone completely. I was hoping that they were going to get plastic miniatures because they're not that complicated a design. You could tone down some of the ribbons on them, and even still, some of the newer models have shown flowy ribbons are not that hard for them to do now in plastic. They could have, and I feel like they could have just modded the model a little bit, keep the jetpack, the guns, and their overall aesthetic, and just tone down the ribbons on them, and they could have easily made these plastic models. Same with Aureliath. He wasn't that terrible of a design as well. I think show what GW has shown they are capable of doing with plastic technology. I feel like they could have easily made all of them into plastic. So that's kind of my hope. Maybe later down the line, now that Kahandras needs a new model, and believe me and all the Eldar fans made sure to remind GW that Kahandras is missing, maybe they'll take this opportunity to convert the Shadow Specters and Aureliath into a plastic as well, and do them all as a combo set. Heck, they could even do something where, because I know when they originally introduced him, he was a lost Phoenix Lord, and from my understanding in the story, they just say that they got him and they left, and no one knows what happened after the fact. So they could do something where he was off doing something and Kahandras was with him and they were summoned back for an event. Something like that, just to introduce them back into the Codex, would be great. Would it happen? I don't know. But I'm hopeful that at the very least Kahandras will get a new model eventually down the line. If the Shadow Specters are gone, you know, it's a shame. I really enjoyed them. They were probably one of my favorite Aspect Warriors. But I can see where they may get rid of them because they kind of were just like a faster version of the Dark Reapers. So they might have just decided they're not worth bringing over, and that's fair. I can understand that. But we're not done, because some guys and gals out there are probably thinking, well, there was another release in there, and that is the Warp Spiders, which finally, their models were the oldest models in the Eldar range. They were still using, well, they technically are still using 2nd edition models. They look really good because of the way that they pose them. They fit in line with the current model of Aspect Warriors, but the Exarch was really showing his age with his posing. He just looks so corny and kind of looked like he was squished between two pieces of metal. It just wasn't the best, which is a shame because they're probably the coolest looking models, even though they're using the oldest molds out of all of them. Throughout all the editions, they were the only ones that never got updated, primarily because, well, their models still held up. And like with everybody else, they're getting 3 options for their Warp Spider Exarch. He's going to have the classic Power Blades and the dual Death Spinners. He can now be equipped with 2 extra Power Blades, giving him 4, I think it's in total, which they said gives him a total of 10 attacks, which is ridiculous. Or he can be given the I forget the name of the weapon, but it was basically the rifle that they introduced in, I want to say it was 4th edition. I'll correct myself down here. And it was a cool idea. It was like basically a long-range version of the Death Spinner. But they got rid of it because, again, it didn't have a model. He only had the Power Blades and the 2 Death Spinners. So it was, again, really awesome to see that old piece come back and to see him get some new looks, and his posing is 10 times better. I just love... He reminds me of the Exarch that appeared in Dawn of War 2's opening, and I'm 99% certain that's where they got inspiration for his posing in this kit. It just looks really cool. And we also got a brand new Phoenix Lord, Lycus. She is the Phoenix Lord of the Warp Spiders, and she's very profoundly, she's known for being the most active of all the Phoenix Lords. She's running around in the warp, fighting all these, Slaneshi demons, and then she pops into battles without invitation, joins in, fights with those Eldar, and then pops back into the warp to continue doing what she's doing. She can teleport the furthest and the most accurate out of all the warp spiders, which is really neat kind of concept. They kind of introduced something similar to this in an Apocalypse detachment, and they say that when she appears, she's followed by a web of lightning. They did bring up that one of her abilities is that she allows warp spiders, after they flicker jump, to charge, effectively giving them almost a 30-inch range, because I believe it's 26 inches is their maximum for their flicker jump, and then the extra 6 inches, she's ridiculous with that. Throw an X-Arc with two sets of power blades in there, that is just nasty. They didn't talk much about her abilities, but I'm guessing that since they specifically mentioned that she's appears with a warp lightning, I gotta feel, and that she's supposed to be the most accurate of all the warp spiders, I feel like her abilities are going to allow her to teleport closer than 9 inches from an enemy, and that maybe she does some sort of mortal wounds when she teleports. And they mention that her sword cuts the fabric of reality. So I'm guessing that her sword deals mortal wounds, kind of in some similar fashion to Azerman's sword, which has his brother's soul trapped in it. I'm most likely is going to deal some sort of mortal wounds with that, and don't know what her death spinner looking arms will do. So, but she looks really cool. I love the look of the eyes on her helmet, and the look of that she makes more of a spider-like face with her helmet. I love her posing. How that leaping look, she looks like she's just leaping out in front of her enemies. Again, it is probably, out of all the model releases, she's probably one of my favorite looking Phoenix Lords right now. But what I'm most interested in is the lore behind her. And I am really hoping that she is not the founder of the shrine. And let me explain. If you guys remember back when we interviewed Gav Thorpe, I outright asked him, is there any reason why there is no Warp Spider Phoenix Lord? I was hoping maybe he'd give some insight as to why there wasn't one, an industry answer. Yes, he didn't know. Later on, someone posted, I don't know how true this story is. I'm going to go off of that. It is what happened, was that the model was given to a young intern. He was working on it. They kept pulling him away for different projects, and he kept trying to work on it in his free time. And by the time they're like, okay, time to get the Eldar Codex ready, he was like, the Warp Spider X Phoenix Lord isn't done. They went, screw it then, we don't need him. And they just pulled it out. But Gav Thorpe says that his own personal headcanon was that there just wasn't a Warp Spider that was good enough to reach Phoenix Lord status. Quick thing here is, a lot of people assume that the Phoenix Lord is the founder. If you're the founder, you are the Phoenix Lord. And that's not entirely true. Kahandras is not the founder of the Shrine of Striking Scorpions. He is the best student of the Father of Scorpions, the founder of the Shrine. What Phoenix Lord is, best way to put it is that it's a title or status where your legend gets so great people talk about you and your legend lives on. You may be the founder of, say, a martial arts school, but you may not be the best utilizer of that martial art, so people may not even talk about you. They may talk about your best student, and everyone treats them like the founder, and that's the person they want to emulate, not the guy that just founded the school and taught a bunch of students and did nothing with their career beyond that. And that's how the Phoenix Lords work. You could be just a student of the original founder and have done so many awesome things that people just keep your legend going and carry on your legacy. That's what happened with Kahandras. He defeated the father of Scorpions and made a name for himself. And as Gav Thorpe was telling us, his headcanon is there just wasn't a warp spider that did anything of major note to justify his legend carrying on through time. The warp spider, in his opinion, the warp spider shrine founder, founded the shrine, taught his students, and that was it. Didn't do anything of note, and the shrine was just waiting for someone to build up a legacy that gave them Phoenix Lord status. And that's what I'm hoping the deal is with Lycus. I hope she's not the founder, because I think it would help better solidify the idea of just because you founded a shrine doesn't automatically make you the Phoenix Lord. And just because a Aspect Warrior shrine is founded doesn't mean there has to be a Phoenix Lord. If that's the case, who knows? It seems like they didn't give us a lot of insight on her, just that she's the most active of the Phoenix Lords. So I'm hoping, there's a little hope in me that she could be just like Kahandras and that she's not the founder of the shrine. If she is the founder of the shrine, whatevs. It's not a huge deal. I'll be like, oh, that's kind of sad. But it's not going to be like it will ruin the character for me. It'll just be that one little piece that I kind of was hoping was a fact. But so, yeah, that is the new models coming out for the Eldar. What do you guys think about all of them? Do you like any of them? Do you hate them? What do you love? What do you not like? Leave your comment in the video here and share your thoughts on these new miniatures. Are you really excited for them? They didn't mention a box set with the Eldar, but I'm kind of got a feeling that maybe they're going to do one. But I don't know, it would be pretty tough. Chances are, I think if they did one, it would be Azurman and all the Aspect Warriors, and then they'd release the other Phoenix Lords by themselves. But I could be totally wrong, and I'm never accurate on any of my guesses with what GW will do. They may just release them all as individual kits, which, it's not, it's releasing after the holidays, so I can see them doing that. And they didn't mention it in the preview, and I think if they were going to, they would have mentioned it in the preview, so it's probably just going to be individual kits. Either way, it's going to be really exciting, going to be a great way to start the new year. And so, yeah. Again, let me know what you think, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you get notified when more videos like this come out, and give this video a like if you like what you saw. I'd really appreciate that, and all the rest of us here at Fearless Games would too. And next week, we'll get our regular scheduled video out there, and it's going to be, I think, an interesting one that'll bring a little joy to your holiday month. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, take care.